This is Launching Your Daughter podcast, and I'm your host, Nicole Burgess, licensed marriage and family therapist. The information shared in this podcast is not a substitute for seeking help from a licensed mental health professional. Now, here is today's episode. Episode 18. In today's episode, I interview NaKaisha Tolbert-Banks, and I just want to warn you, during this episode, I do a lot of laughing in it because of the topic that she is actually going to discuss. I hope you find it as enjoyable as I did, and that you come from this episode recognizing that, yes, therapy actually can be fun and can help take the stress level out of having a teen daughter and being a perfect parent. So without further ado, here is today's episode. Well, welcome everybody. Today I am super excited. My guest is NaKaisha Tolbert-Banks, and she's a licensed clinical social worker, and she does some, interesting work, and I can't wait for you to hear a little more about what the work is that she does. So welcome, NaKaisha.
Thank you, Nicole. I'm excited to be here.
Well, I'm excited that you decided to come on the show today, because what you offer, I just think is fascinating with the type of work that we do, because I know you work with also teen girls and adults and families and all of that as well. But can you tell the listeners a little more about who you are and what type of services that you offer?
Absolutely. So my name again is NaKaisha Tolbert-Banks. I'm a licensed clinical social worker. I also am a licensed clinical addictions counselor. Along with that, I received a certification to become a certified laughter yoga leader. And I'm also a certified empowerment coach, in which I specialize in energy leadership. So with all of that being said, the part that we'll really hone in on today is talking about the laughter and how I use that with therapy. So I am a therapist and I have a private practice here in Indianapolis. And I have been a social worker for a lot of years, so about 18 years. And I absolutely love what I do. I tell people all the time, it's not like work for me. It is honestly like the best gift and calling that, I'm able to use my gifts with helping people. And it's just a great way to meet people, to help people, and to watch people in therapy settings really thrive and grow and have those aha moments. And that's what I do, So clinical social worker, private practice. I do a lot of speaking engagements out in the community, workshops, trainings, things of that nature. And it is absolutely awesome.
That's great. And I know when you and I have talked, you truly, the laughter piece of it, the empowerment piece of it, it comes through you. So I love that you are able to provide those services as well for our local community here. And people, actually have access to you, whether it's speaking engagements or in the therapy process. So it's awesome.
Yeah, thank you.
Can you tell our listeners a little more then, I guess, how do you use the laughter piece in therapy, especially like if you're working with teen girls or the families that you work with? How do you incorporate that in there?
Absolutely. Well, the funny part is that when I get calls from families or individuals and they call and they're like, we saw your profile online, or somebody referred us to you, or I was, in a workshop that you did, and, I want to come in, or I want to bring my daughter in for services. But I'm a little confused about that whole laughter piece. Like, do you tell jokes during sessions? And I'm like, no. And I have shared that with a lot of my clients. And I'm like, you absolutely do not want me to tell jokes, because I'm horrible at telling jokes. I laugh before I get to the punchline. Nobody gets it. I can't remember it half the time. So that is absolutely the farthest thing from what I do. But the laughter piece comes in that, it's really organic. So it is whatever comes up. So a
Okay.
lot of times when I'm working with families, and especially like my teen girls that I work with and parents, the parents are a lot of times at their wits' end. Like there's so much attitude and, like she just doesn't talk to us or she only comes out of her room to like go to school to eat,
Yes.
or if she has dirty clothes or,
Right.
whatever. And so it's very stressful for a lot of the parents.
Mhm.
And the things that we talk about in therapy are a lot of times the things that make us laugh. So
Mhm.
it is really the organic part that comes out. It's natural. It's things that they may say that kind of down in my gut, I start to giggle a little bit
Mhm.
and I'll say, "Hey, let's revisit what you just said. Did you ever think about actually how humorous that is?" And they're like, I never really thought about that. Or when parents are revisiting, like maybe a disagreement that they've had or an argument that they've had with one of their teens, they'll start to snicker and say, I probably didn't make the best decision, or, her response was this, and they start to laugh. And so we embrace that in that therapeutic process, and it's really awesome how it comes forth because it's not anything that's pushed or forced
Yeah.
from them, but it's something that really happens organically, and it's really awesome to watch.
It also helps the parents, right? I mean, this is a tough age, the teenage years. The girls,
Yes.
both daughters and sons, they're pulling away, trying to fit in more with their peers, but they also want to, have mom and dad still right there, their parents right there. And for parents to role model, which I talked about on one of the previous episodes, about just role modeling that imperfection, it's giving them
Yeah.
permission. It's like, okay, I screwed up when I had that conflict with my daughter, and going back, it's like, okay, I could have done that differently. It's like, but that's
Yeah.
it. That's beautiful because now your kiddo is seeing that it's okay to make mistakes and you can go back, repair, and you can laugh about it. Not everything has to be quite so serious all the time either.
Yeah. And I think that's absolutely it, Nicole. Like, the parents, I tell them, granted, yes, there are books, there are, things that you can look up online, and
Hmm.
there are, parent sites that you can join and things like that. But honestly, until you get into that situation, you have no idea exactly what to do.
Right.
And so I said, I tell my parents a lot of times, there are going to be times where you're going to make an absolute great decision and it's all going to work out well. And there's absolutely going to be times where you're like, I really screwed that up and we
Hmm.
need to like, have a do-over. And everybody gets a do-over. That's the
Yeah.
thing that I tell my parents to embrace is, you know, you get to do over, the teens get to do over, and everybody starts with a clean slate.
Yeah.
And I think that that's the piece that really helps to relieve that stress and tension,
Hmm.
and then allows that more natural flow of just kind of, I want to say peace and harmony,
Hmm.
but just really honestly, that peace and harmony to kind of come through because everybody's just like, look, we don't exactly know what we're doing, but we're going to figure it out together. And it really helps for the families to kind of gel better.
Yeah, and what kept coming up for me as you're talking, going back to also the other part of your services, empowerment, it's that. I mean, it's really, you are helping reflect back to the parents that this is empowering, that they can acknowledge that, okay, I've made a mistake. And when they let kind of that defensiveness down because they're trying to be so perfect, and it's, as humans, we were not. And when they do that for their teens, is showing that, it's like, wow, it not only empowers the parents, it also empowers the whole entire family. So you giving them permission, it's lovely.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
And that empowerment piece is key. That is the ultimate goal of what I do here in, my private practice is empowering families and individuals. The
Yeah.
individuals make up that family piece.
Hmm.
And so, and I share this with families all the time. When one person in your inner circle is hurting or, they don't necessarily have what they need, those skills, and they're struggling, that affects the rest of that circle.
Mm-hmm.
And so when one person is empowered, that's then shared across that family unit, and the whole unit becomes better.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's really what I'm working towards, is helping to empower these families and let them know, again, it's okay if you make a mistake, but own it,
Mm-hmm.
accept it, and move forward with that. And once they do that, you can really see how that strength really starts to build and they become a better unit as a whole.
Absolutely. Yeah. You've already kind of answered one of the other questions I typically ask is, what are some of the questions or concerns by parents? But you had said it earlier is one, they're trying to find out, are you telling jokes the whole time you're doing the laughter therapy piece of it? But the other part of it is that sometimes feeling, frustrated because they're not feeling connected to their daughter and that they're wanting a better connection. It's like, wow, she just comes out of her room to eat or to go to school. It's so
Yeah.
frustrating. Yeah. And part of what you're doing is in those moments when you're with the families or you're with just the parents or you're with the teen girls, you're also reminding them it's about relationship and what you're putting into it and
Absolutely.
what others are getting out of it as well.
Yeah. If I can maybe interject and,
Uh-huh.
and say that in this arena, we are dealing with the millennials. And
Mm-hmm.
so their way of interacting is a lot different than, say, when I was growing up.
Mm-hmm.
And so I share that with a lot of my parents that, where your teens are now versus when you grew up, two totally different eras.
Yeah.
And so, the whole cell phone and texting and the online, like the Facebooks and the Twitters and Snapchats and all of that. We didn't have all of that growing up. So we were forced to, build relationships in a different way.
Mm-hmm.
And so parents really struggle with that now. And so, I work with them to say, okay, you got to be a little bit more creative in how you like get those teens out of the room, or, maybe there's a set time that you're going to have family dinner or family bonding time,
Mm-hmm.
even
Mm-hmm.
because if parents don't engage, oh, the teens are good with that. They're like,
Right.
oh, like, yeah, like, okay, they're leaving me alone. I haven't seen my parents in 3 days because
Right.
I've been in my room from Friday when I get home from school until Monday when I have to get back out and go back to school again. And so it's really about using your mind to be creative in how you actually get teens to engage nowadays. And it's quite hilarious sometimes what parents have to do, but I'm like, if something that you're doing works, keep doing it until it doesn't work and try something else.
Yeah. That goes back to as well that being flexible, that sometimes
Yeah.
a certain stage of a child's life, yep, those techniques can work really well. And then they hit a new developmental stage and you're like, wow, that's still not working anymore. What just happened? So it is
Yeah, exactly.
staying creative and yeah, trying to think outside the box sometimes. And every family is different. So just because it works for one family, whatever those skills are that they've been using or techniques, it's like it may not work for yours, and that's okay. We're not cookie cutter families, and you don't need to be.
Exactly. Yeah.
Love it. Well, tell our listeners a little bit, then some more about the benefits, whether it's for the teen girls or even for the parents. You've listed some already. Do you have other kind of benefits that come through the counseling and laughter therapy?
Yeah, and I'll talk a little bit more about the whole laughter piece because I think that it really it kind of sets itself out educationally in how people can think about it, because a lot of times we don't necessarily think about laughter as beneficial, right?
Mm-hmm. Right.
So people are just kind of like, oh, I'm laughing, ha ha ha,
Mm-hmm.
but there is honestly benefit to all of us for the way in which laughter comes about. So if you just kind of think about laughter in general, you're laughing. And when people are laughing, generally speaking, they're breathing. That breathing is really helping your body to get that good oxygen in that it needs to operate and function. So, the way that I explain it to a lot of the people that I see in the private practice is when you're laughing in a stressful situation, if you think about a time that you were stressed and you start to laugh during that stressful moment, what happens? you generally start to feel a little bit better.
Right, right.
And that's because you're like taking that shift and that focus off of the stressor for just a moment and you're laughing.
Mm-hmm.
When you're laughing, you're breathing. Those breaths that you're taking while you're laughing is actually allowing your mind to kind of shift and like shake the dust off.
Mm-hmm.
And so it gives you a clearer perspective. And then you're able to make maybe a better decision. So a lot of times I'll use that with my teens. I'll say, in a time of stress, you need to do something that gives you a little bit more clarity. So
Mm-hmm.
if it's watching a funny movie or calling a friend that's going to make you laugh or reading something funny online, because again, it goes back to relating what they can do that they enjoy doing. And so that laughter is very stimulating. And just kind of on a, more scientific realm, it gets those endorphins going. And
Yeah.
those endorphins are those happy things that are in our bodies, those happy chemicals.
Mm-hmm.
And so with that, when those are increased, it puts you in a different state. And obviously, what we all want is for parents and teens to be in that different state, which is a better state,
Right.
so that they're able to function and relate better.
And I love it too, because even when you were talking about, imagining going back and having being in a stressful moment, it's like I was smiling while you were talking, going, "Oh yeah." And if I start to laugh about that, because it's like, okay, it's done, it's past, and it shifts, as you said, it shifts the perspective of it. And for the girls, like what you're talking about, then they don't get stuck, and then they don't get so stressed out and overwhelmed and like, I have to be perfect, or I can't do this. Oh my gosh. It's being able to laugh and getting yourself out of that. It's, in a way, it reminds me of kind of the mindfulness training with the breathing, right? We're very
Yes.
intentional, but here
Yes.
you're doing it laughing wise, which automatically changes how you breathe. And then, yeah, as you
Yeah.
said, the endorphins and stuff. That's really cool.
Yeah. It's awesome. It's definitely awesome.
Yeah. So I'm curious. I know we've talked, again, great benefits and how you work with teen girls, how you work with the parents and the families. Is there anything like in between the sessions? Like, do you give them, like, I know we talked a little bit about books earlier, but any books that you offer or tell them that it would be good to read, or other pieces of advice to kind of practice in between the sessions?
Usually, in between sessions, I'll give a lot of times just different worksheets to work on or resources. A lot of times I use online things. And again, with working with my teens, because I know that they generally have that phone like glued to their hands. Some
Yes.
of my teens, I don't think that it even leaves their side. Like, it's almost like you fall asleep and the phone starts slipping out and they like jump up like, oh my gosh, like my phone can't leave my hand,
Right.
but a lot of times I try to help them with online resources.
Okay.
One of the resources that we didn't really talk a whole lot about, but this is where I get the laughter piece from, is laughter yoga. And so I will refer people to look up laughter yoga videos online. Like YouTube has just like hundreds and hundreds of laughter yoga videos. You
Okay.
watch those videos, and honestly, there is no way that you can watch one of those videos without actually laughing yourself. So, again, that's another benefit, which is awesome.
Yeah.
And then, it just kind of depends on where that teen is. If they're, having more anxiety or depression type of issues, I may refer them to various resources that would be helpful for them. One of the ones that I actually love is an actual app right now that I'm actually using with a lot of my teens who have anxiety issues and even depressive issues.
Mm-hmm.
And kind of like we talked about before, to focus more on that whole mindfulness piece.
Mm-hmm.
But the app is actually called Calm, CALM. And it really helps a lot of my teens that have anxiety issues to focus, to just sit in the moment and breathe and relax. One of the things that I notice is that everybody kind of keeps going. So, families, a
Mm-hmm.
lot of times, if teens are in sports or extracurricular activities, the parents like get off work, they get the teens, they're going to games, they're going to practice. classes, they're doing this, they're doing that, they're trying to fit in dinner, they're trying to fit in homework, and
Yeah.
it's really stressful, and they're just constantly going. And so there's no downtime.
Mm-hmm.
And so that downtime that they need that they don't usually get becomes stress. And with stress comes attitude. So we're
Mm-hmm.
going back to that again.
Mm-hmm.
So really helping them, I'm like, even if it's just 5 minutes of downtime, jump on that app when you're riding in the car to your next event or whatever, or riding
Mm-hmm.
home from practice. Or you get home and you go to the bathroom. Take 5 minutes to get on the app and just sit there and just have some downtime to breathe, to relax, and give your body a chance to shift from one event to the next.
Yeah, it's that transition because yeah, when you're
Yeah.
going 90 miles an hour all the time, it's like eventually your body just says, "Hey, I'm done." And so you are going to get attitude because just I'm exhausted and
Oh,
overwhelmed.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I like that. Yeah, there's an app. Sometimes I recommend there's one called Headspace as well, but I'll look into the Calm. Definitely put that on the show notes too for people so they can look that
Definitely.
up. Yeah. Cool. Well, could you tell our listeners then how can they get a hold of you or how can they find you? And I want to also say put a plug in there too that makes sure that everyone knows you also do online therapy too here in the state of Indiana.
Yes.
Okay, so
Yes.
tell our listeners just how they can get a hold of you or find you.
Absolutely. So my contact information, again, NaKaisha Tolbert Banks, website, www.duogigggles.weebly.com. Again, that's www.duogigles.weebly.com. Of course, I have to have the giggles part in there because that's just what I love.
Right.
And if you want to find me on Twitter or follow me on Twitter, my handle is at First Lady Giggles, which is one STLADYGIGGLES. There it is again. And you can also look up our Facebook page, which is www.facebook.com/DUO Empowerment Services. And you can find us there as well. A phone contact office number is 323-977-8570. And if people want to email me, they can email me at ntblaughter@gmail.com.
You've just got laughter and giggles everywhere, don't you?
I'm telling you, that's the way to go.
I love it. And just even your saying it makes me giggle. So that's all fun. It's all fun. Well, thank you so much, NaKaisha, for being a guest today and sharing with everybody what it is that you offer and how the laughter yoga can be part of laughter therapy as well, and how you incorporate that in there. That going into therapy doesn't mean it has to be serious all the time, and being able to shift the perspective and be flexible with yourself and allow yourself to make mistakes and be gentle with self is part of how that then comes up and comes forward, so you can kind of laugh about it and move forward, and it's very empowering. So yes, thank you so much.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me, Nicole.
And if you haven't done so already, I invite you to please subscribe on iTunes and then give me an honest rating and a review of what you think about these episodes. I really appreciate all of your support and help getting this out there to those that need to hear it. Thanks a lot. Thank you for listening to Launching Your Daughter with Nicole Burgess, licensed marriage and family therapist. For more information or to stay up to date, go to launchingyourdaughter.com. You can sign up for my email list or join my Facebook group. Thank you.